Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of September 13th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We started a couple of minutes late because we needed a couple of signatures on a couple of very important pieces of paper. We have two gentlemen here this evening at our last council meeting. Was it our last council meeting, Mr. Administrator? It was at our last one, wasn't it? Yeah. That it was made mention of two town employees who were going about their day, nothing going on, and happened to be driving down the street on July 15th, and while returning from a routine call on State Street, Mr. Andrea and Mr. Martin heard the sound of a small explosion coming from a nearby residence. Observing smoke and flames emanating from this residence, they utilized their department's water jet to combat the flames and minimize damage. So if I could remind everybody that these are not firefighters. These two gentlemen, fine gentlemen, work at our sewer treatment plant and had been doing their day-to-day thing and happened to be driving by, and the administrator brought it to our attention, and the Jose De Silva, the director, also brought it to our attention. I thought it would be very appropriate to recognize someone like this that is like our firefighters and our police that are willing to go into harm's way and have their eyes and ears open. But let me finish this, if I may. Use their water jet to combat the flames and minimize damage, and upon noticing the residents within this building, Mr. Andrade continued to spray the water while Mr. Martin, employing the equipment from the jet truck, opened the door of the building, enabling its evacuation and securing the safety of the residents. In presentation, this commendation, the Honorable Town Administrator and Town Council of the Town of Bristol, State of Rhode Island, and Providence Plantations, individually, collectively, and on behalf of all Bristolians, extends best wishes and congratulations to Norbert Andrade and Brian Martin, Jr. And that's signed by myself, Nathan Calduro, Tim Sweeney, Andrew Tiska, Mary Perella, Edward Stewart, Louis Chirillo, and Stephen Condente. Gentlemen, if you could come up, please. We're constantly reminded of what a wonderful town that we live in and what wonderful employees that we have, and also what wonderful residents that we have. We're going to share one more thing before we get started, and I'm going to refer this over to Walter Burke to share some information about an effort to help some people who, if you haven't been living under a rock, have been going through hell, but underwater. Walter, could you take it from here?
Certainly. Good evening. Quickly after the hurricane disaster in Texas, I got a phone call from Nancy Stratton, and then the next day from Pat Lannon about can we do anything to relieve the suffering in Texas and then now in Florida as well. So we formed a group. And basically, it's Sarah Klein, Nancy Stratton, Pat Lannon, Cara Daniello, Pastor Sean Smith, Emily Spence. Pastor Sean Smith is the pastor of Stone Coast Church. He's also a member of our Health Equity Zone, the faith-based working group. And I'd like to have the pastor explain a little bit about, in 2 minutes, what the program entails. Pastor?
So good evening, and thanks for having me.
Welcome.
I had the privilege to be able to fly down the day after the hurricane hit in Texas. A friend of mine, Scott Martin, has his own private plane, and we got to fly in there, and we were able to do some relief flights for 2.5 days while the trucks weren't able to get into the affected areas. That was just a very moving experience when you can see firsthand the devastation. Upon returning, I just felt like, we had to do something as a local church, and my heart and the vision of our church is to be outward focused and to be able to meet needs in the community and do it as a collaborative effort. And so I reached out to different folks in the area, especially Walter. And, Walter mentioned the people that are on his team, and we just sat around and thought about how could we do this, and we're trying to get the word out to anyone and everyone that would want to be a participant in this. So our church is at the Highlander Charter School in Warren, Rhode Island, and we're going to serve as a donation site there. And we're going to receive donations from Saturday, September 16th, so this Saturday through Sunday, the 24th. And we're also going to be, the Bristol Maritime Center is also going to serve as a donation site through Walter's efforts. And so I'm basically just providing a lot of information for people. There's a supplies list that we've gotten directly from Texas. I'd like to add that I'm not 100% sure that it will go to Texas because we wanted to wait to see the effects of Hurricane Irma in Florida. But we would do a similar thing where we would make contacts with local pastors in the area. It's a great network to be able to get the supplies out to the affected people. If we do go to Texas, I already have relationships there. There's a whole procedure in place, so we're ready to go if we decide to go there. I'm just asking for the town to participate with us in any way, shape, or form. People can do so through getting the supplies. It's on the website. Walter has it. So there's a list that has been given to us from them so that we know exactly what we should be bringing to them. There's opportunities for people in the future weeks and months if they'd like to do a trip down there. We can organize that as well to help with the restoration. And so we're just excited to be able to team up with the community. We've reached out to schools, businesses, organizations, basically anyone that would want to participate along with us. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I just wanted to kind of get that out there.
I just want to commend you for your efforts and all the people that are involved. Is it possible that if we don't already get a link on our website to point people in that direction to make it easy to find? Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just suggest that you just do a quick summary of the list, because there are a lot of people who watch this. I know, like, Cardi's did one last weekend, and they wanted, like, cleaning supplies and others are looking for sheets and so forth.
Sure. We're trying to make it very, very accessible so they can go on the website. So our website is stonecoastcommunity.org, so all the information is there. But some of the things, like the big categories are cleaning supplies and tools, personal care need items, baby child needs. So those are the broad categories. I don't know if we should go further than that, but it'll be very self-explanatory. Anyone that wants to get involved.
This is your commercial, so you got your...
I think that sums it up. I mean, the thing is, we do need people to go on this and get this list because it's an approved list. We don't, like, for example, we hear all the articles about people, they live in Texas and they want to send winter jackets and hats. They don't need that.
Right.
So this is an approved list, and so anyone that does want to get involved, we would point them directly to the website so that they have this list that they can work directly from.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
But I commend you quite a bit for doing this. This is great. But I think you just want to make sure you point out that you don't want clothes.
Yeah, so
You
it says
don't
what not
want
to
shoes,
donate,
you don't want
no
perishable
clothing,
food,
no shoes, no perishable
kitchen.
food, no kitchen utensils, no furniture.
Good thing. Great. Wish you the best of luck.
So the Bristol location is at the Bristol Maritime Center on 127 Thames Street.
Is that the same dates as the one
So
at
that will be
Highlander?
Monday through Friday, which is September 18th through the 22nd.
So next week.
Next week from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And I might add, too, like, just because we're getting the word out, things just start happening. So J&J Materials from Seekonk, they are putting together their own shipment, and we've been able to team up with them. They have a 52-foot trailer that they're going to have on site for us, as well as their own location. And so I'm just saying that because we have the capacity to fill two 52-foot trailers at their cost. They're going to take on the whole cost of shipping for us. So this is truly a community effort, and I've gone into the Seekonk High Schools, gone into the Bristol Warren schools. People are just coming together, and that's my heart's thing, to see the community get galvanized together over bringing good into the world when people need it most.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the Town Council, the first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, the submission of minutes of previous meetings, items A1, 2, and 3.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the second reading for adoption of Ordinance 2017-12. This basically defines service dogs and does prohibit dog presence in Independence Park during special events. This is the second reading for adoption.
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is Ordinance 2017-13, and the council did receive some communication on this, independent of this ordinance. This basically, it removes the imprisonment penalty throughout the town code. This is the first reading.
Motion, this constitutes the first reading.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next ordinance is 2017-14, and this is basically a housekeeping matter. The council will recall that it created a new section of the residential parking area that essentially requires that there should be no overnight parking on certain streets without resident stickers. What happened when we did that is we didn't clearly define the district itself, so this is basically doing that. If there really isn't a change, it just adds that second provision in the code where the two of them work together.
Motion.
So this is the first reading.
Motion, this constitutes the first reading.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the item D1. This is the petition of Ellen Bloomgren, doing business as Hot Point Emporium Artists Cooperative at 39 State Street. Request council consideration for a holiday sales license. You have recommendations from the town administrator, fire chief, and chief of police to approve.
Motion to approve holiday sales license?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next is the petition of Carol Almonte for the PTG Group of Our Lady of Mount Carmel School, requesting a bingo license on September 29th and November 3rd. You do have a recommendation of the town administrator and fire chief to approve, and there was a late item recommendation that did come in from the police chief approving November 3rd. I'm assuming, Chief, that you have equally no problem with September 29th.
Based on all recommendations, make a motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next is item D3. This is the petition of Malik Arslan, doing business as Pick and Pay Food Mart, 300 Hope Street, request for a vittling license. You have recommendation of the town administrator, fire chief, Department of Water Pollution Control, and the chief of police, all to approve.
Motion to grant the victim license upon all recommendations and ordinances.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks.
Similarly, from the same petitioner, you have a request for a holiday sales license with similar recommendations provided.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is you have the petition of Dorothy Boyce. This is the second reading for adoption for her request for an accessible parking space. She lives at 23 Union Street. This would be in her neighborhood.
Upon all the department recommendations, to grant the accessible parking space at 23 Union Street.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Similarly, from Helen Carney of 627 Wood Street, Apartment 1, request for accessible parking space. This is the second reading. You have recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Director of Public Works, and also the Chief of Police.
Make a motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Similarly, the petition of Manuel Borges, 32 Pierce Avenue, requesting accessible parking space. This is the second reading.
Motion to grant the accessible parking space in front of 32 Pierce Ave in the location requested by the Police Department. Recommendation also that it is in support of the next agenda item by the town clerk. We'll make it clear that we'll deny that one, but we'll get there when we get there. So.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
As Mr.
Bless
Stewart
you.
noted out, the actually granting F3, which is the accessible parking space, eliminates the need for F4.
Oh, it does.
Because what the police department recommended is that the accessible parking space be put in the place so that prevents the gate from being blocked. So the proper motion for F4 would be to receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm just curious, is the petitioner aware of this? He knows?
According to the police report,
Yeah.
they did discuss that with the petition.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Clerk, I have a question on
Yes.
that. Going back to 2, because this is all connected, the handicap placard on that one was a temporary that was good through February of next year. Do we have a practice that would ask that resident to come back in? Because I haven't seen a temporary one before.
We just ask for at the time that they request. Obviously, if they don't have one, the permanent one, it's not going to be very helpful to them. So what happens is sometimes you get one temporarily with the understanding that at some point you're going to get a regular one.
I mean, to be clear, I'm in
Obviously,
full agreement of this. I just want to
Right,
make sure
yeah.
that we had a process.
Usually, by the time it gets to us, they already are at the stage of the permanent one.
Thank you.
The next is a petition. This is item F5, the petition of Mario Carrero of 7 Goulart Avenue, requests council consideration for no parking across from his driveway. You have several recommendations provided.
Motion to approve the no parking space at 7 Goulart Ave.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item F6. This is the petition of Veronica Medeiros, 40 Congregational Street, request council consideration for no parking across from driveway. You have the recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Director of Public Works, and Chief of Police.
I'm smiling because I'm not sure if we have any parking left in town.
Yeah, I know. I don't have the.
That's what I was going to
Busy
address
agenda, yeah.
to the chief, because I understand the recommendations and to the Director of Public Works and how this is mapped out in front of the residents. Is the applicant here? Okay. So when I look at the no parking, I'm just curious, is it going forward, or, because I would imagine backing in would not be a problem, right?
Well, for me to back in my driveway,
Go ahead, please. If you
Yes,
could come
please.
up to the mic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
thank you. For me to get in my driveway at all, I have to, the only way is I can back in. I have to go on someone else's driveway in their property across the street and back in my driveway.
Well, there's a no
Or
parking in
similarly-
front of your house on the other side of your residence, so you
Well, there's
can't...
a driveway across from my driveway, like this. There's a driveway here and the driveway there. And there's a no parking in front of their driveway, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So when you're going down the road, even if you were in the no parking space to back into your driveway, that's not enough room?
No. I have a video if you'd like to see it.
Director McBride, I know I reached out to you on this. Could you lend some clarity too?
Sure. Basically, Councilman Stewart asked a good question, and quite frankly, if I hadn't met the petitioner on site to go over it with her in detail, I would probably make the same assessment. However, if you look at the gate to the driveway that she's trying to get into, it's very narrow. And in order for her to maneuver into her driveway, as she stated, she needs to utilize somebody else's driveway to get into it, which, in my mind, doesn't make good sense. The problem being is if somebody parks on the eastern portion of the designated no parking right now, she cannot make the swing into her driveway. And the problem also being that if she can't get in her driveway, then she's going to park on the street, and that's problematic in itself. So I did take a good hard look at this one. I spent quite a bit of time out there looking at it. In fact, even went by when there was a vehicle parked where she's talking about and can understand her problem. So that's why you have my recommendation to approve.
Chief, did you want to add anything? Obviously, this is very clear on here, so. Okay.
As you can imagine, I mean, all these streets have become more and more difficult to negotiate, navigate through with parking. Some vehicles are a little larger than others. When you have a larger vehicle there, it becomes a little bit more difficult. The petitioner does have that advantage that, you know, she can pull her nose of her vehicle into the other driveway and back up, and having good neighbors, that always works. But, you know, we don't know that that's going to continue forever. There may be someone else that live there and put a chain or a gate across the driveway, and that'll end that ability to do that. So I do concur with the director. He spent some time. The sergeant went down, looked at it. I believe we forwarded you some photos. And what we're looking to do is to make sure that everyone in the neighborhood is given the same opportunity. And the petitioner does have a valid issue, and I ask that you look at it open-minded and make a decision on the information forwarded to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, based on the recommendations, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? I'll just add one thing, is that I do agree that this is appropriate. I also agree with the sentiment shared by Councilman Stewart, not as it regard to this, but I was joking a little bit earlier about all of these are very appropriate, no parking, but we do have limited parking in Bristol, and giving up anything is, I know that these recommendations of suggesting that they be removed don't come lightly, and so I do share Councilman Stewart's concern about that, but I do believe that all of these are appropriate. So we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
The next petition regarding the request of arts in common has been withdrawn. That's item F7.
Is that a receive and file, Lou?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item H1. This is continued from July 5th, and this is Councilman Stewart's request for a status update on the final draft of the Tanyard Brook Phase 2.
You missed appointments, Lou. Lou?
Lou,
You missed G1.
appointments.
Appointments.
Oh, a whole page. Turning too quickly. Okay, public service appointments, item G1. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. You have the Economic
Wow.
Development Commission. There are 3 positions with terms to expire in September of 2020. And you have the requests of Charles Cavalcanti of 88 Church Street, Patrick McCarthy of 4 Maple Shade Court, and Patricia McLaughlin of 25 Pierce Avenue, all seeking reappointment.
I move that we reappoint the 3 people mentioned. Patricia McLaughlin, Pat McCarthy, and Charlie Cavalcanti.
I had spoken...
That's-
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
just second for discussion.
Okay, second for discussion.
Okay, just second for discussion.
Andy?
I'll second for discussion. Honestly, since Jessica is now leaving us, I think with the Economic Development Commission.
Could you take a
to my
moment
colleague-
and just reiterate what you just said, so it's for the public?
Jessica, our Economic Development Coordinator, She is moving on. We wish her the best of luck. And long and the short of it, I think with these appointments and the direction of the Economic Development Commission, I think it would be wise for us to kind of hold these reappointments till we find out what the direction is of this board and commission. But I just wanted to bring that to my colleagues. I don't know what you guys think of that, but maybe we could have a special meeting, interview the new candidates, take a look at what this board and commission is going for, what our vision, what our strategy is for the future of this committee, and on who we hire, who's going to replace Jessica. I'm going to miss her.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting approach. Our economic development coordinator has resigned, and I wonder if there's some feedback we can get from her. In business, we often do an exit interview. I don't know, has that been on the radar screen to do an exit interview?
It was done by the director.
Oh, fantastic. So that might be a good opportunity to review and consider some feedback that she gave. I think that's probably one of the most useful times to get feedback is an exit interview. And I think if we could get some feedback from the administrator on that as well, and really have a good discussion, maybe it's a workshop to talk about how we can really look towards the future to engage our commission and the next hire potentially to ensure that the economic vitality of the town of Bristol is continued.
I'm in agreement with that.
Well, I just have a little concern about it, only because, we didn't have an economic development coordinator for a long time. We had a board. I think that they did need some direction to work with the coordinator. However, like some of the people here, there are projects that are ongoing. We've had the chairman and other people here talking to us about things that they're looking at and working on, and a couple of the most active members are in this list. So I hate to see them just sort of languish while it could be several months before that position is advertised and someone's appointed. So that doesn't...
I don't think that's what I heard from my colleagues. Obviously, we value all our board members. I think it's a timing. There has been discussions of ongoing with our Economic Development Commission and through Director of Community Development, Diane. I think the timing of the departure of the coordinator and our conversations that are going to have to take place with our administrator, the capacity and their role as members right now would stay the same.
I understand that.
So, not to...
Doesn't hurt anything.
Reappoint or appoint someone tonight. I agree with you on the timing of expediting any such workshop to move this as quickly as possible with the discussions because of the ongoing projects, as you stated. So...
Well, I do understand that their position until filled, they still continue to serve. I get that part. I just don't think it's fair. That's all. I don't think it's right. I think that if they've done their work on this, I'm trying to think of the various scenarios and under which we would make decisions about the new position, and I could almost imagine what some of the discussion points would be. So I just don't see where this makes that big of a difference to if we appointed those people anyway. And moving forward.
Okay. So there was discussion about having a special meeting to discuss the focus of,
Yes.
of this board, but I know that there's a motion, and it was a second for discussion to reappoint. So that is the motion on the floor. Mary, do you want to keep that motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'll keep the motion on the floor.
Okay. So there's a motion, and there's a second by discussion to reappoint. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so that was a 4-1. So is there a new motion on the floor? I heard that. Could you make that in the form of a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to hold the applicants that are waiting for reappointment to a special meeting, and then at that special meeting, we would like to discuss the future and the vision of the Economic Development Commission, and potentially who we're going to be looking at of who's going to carry that vision forward.
Okay.
So,
is there a second?
Second.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No? Did you need to share something?
I would. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat McCarthy. Second one listed here for consideration tonight. I'm a member of the Economic Development Commission. I just would like to point out that our efforts and our ongoing projects for like the last 2 years perhaps, has been under the leadership of Dr. Jerry Dotrieve, a professor of economics, doctorate of economics at Roger Williams, outstanding leader. We actually operate under his leadership month to month, year to year. So whether a position in town is vacant or filled, is eliminated, etc., we do operate under his leadership month to month. To my knowledge, the Economic Development Commission has been operating at least as a commission back to the late 70s, at least as early as the 1980s, under Director Banderi, I believe, was the chairman back in the early 80s. Matter of fact, that's where the waterfront redevelopment effort started for the marina, which is gaining some nice traction. So anyway, it's a little history lesson for you on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, somebody just read the motion to me, please. Could you just repeat the motion? It was to have a special meeting to consider...
It's to hold a special meeting to discuss the future and uses of the Economic Development Commission. I may change that usage word.
Okay.
And just to add to Mr. McCarthy's statement, the Economic Development Commission was created by previous councils. I believe you were on. The most vital asset of why it was created is through the Mount Hope Enterprise Zone, which was very vibrant back in the day for our community and for our various neighbors. So,
Well, Eddie, I know that I'm old, but I think if you said it started in the 70s, I wouldn't have been on the council then.
well, I wasn't going to dispute any dates with Mr. McCarthy, so I didn't want to go down that road.
Perhaps, maybe, but other than that, I might have been in high
I'm
school.
certainly
or
not
something.
debating that, but I'm just saying the intention under the councils, and sometimes we always look to Lou as our staple.
I think the current ordinance is since I've been town clerk. So
Okay.
Mid-2000s.
So that would
Yeah.
mean
Okay, that would mean
you're
I
the
am-
only counselor that's been here as long as I have. So
Okay.
you would have been.
All right, then
part of
thank
it, yes.
you. Okay.
Thank
Because it
you.
was like,
Not back in the olden days.
Not in the 70s.
When I need a clutch, I
Not
do.
that there's anything wrong with the 70s
I
anymore.
wasn't trying to make you out, but I look to Lou because maybe I have to brush up of when it was,
There
instituted
have
for the
been
mission.
several iterations of this
The reiteration, yeah.
over the time that Mr. McCarthy mentions, but the current one is from, I believe
Mid-2000s.
that Ken Marshall was the chairman of the council when we did that, I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Similarly, you have requests for reappointment for the alternates to the Economic Development Commission, Andrea Rounds and Daniel Feldman.
I would also make a motion that this be part of the special, to postpone these two appointments at this time also. Again, we value their positions, but I want to be clear that, because I've been hearing some conversations on two levels of, it's not only about the coordinator position resigning, but it has been conversations with Dr. Dotrieve, the chairman, in the past. I know I have had discussions, and like I said, with the Director of Community Development, and all our members are from the EDC and this Town Council of ongoing things that we're dealing with in Bristol. But like I agreed with Councilwoman Perella, is this council should make that meeting within the next month, if possible, so we can just keep moving along. So.
Agreed.
Okay. So is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item G1C. This is the annual list of 4th of July committee members for council approval.
Motion to approve the 4th of July committee members as stated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is G1D. This is the Bristol County Water Authority Director with term to expire in February 2020. You have the application of Juan Mariscal, 1303 Hope Street, who is interested in appointment.
Make a motion to appoint Juan Mariscal to the Bristol County Water Authority.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is the Board of Tax Assessment Review alternate. You have the resignation of Diane C. Medeiros currently serving. Diane was the Democrat alternate. We have contacted the political parties about filling that position.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk, and thank you, Ms. Medeiros, and we'll go from there once the parties reach back to us. So.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now, H1, Councilman...
No, actually not. Just
No?
as we do every time when we come to boards and commissions, that this council appreciates the hard work, and it's already been said a couple of times, but I would be remiss if I did not do it this time, the hard work and efforts of our boards and commissions. We mentioned a few very hard-working ones. I know the 4th of July Committee is one of those that started on July 5th, and there's a whole bunch more that do exactly the same. So this council appreciates what you do. Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Okay, now, H1.
Yes, we can get there now.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
This is continued from July 5th. This is Councilman Stewart's request for a status update on the construction easements and final draft of Tanyard Brook Phase 2.
Thank you. Like we were saying in the beginning of the meeting, our hearts go out to all the flood victims throughout the country, and it's, when you deal with Mother Nature at this type of level, I think even if our Tanyard Brook was complete with all the revisions, we would be inundated also. But we are always trying to improve, and sitting down with Diane, we know that we have to complete every residence with this project, and she has made very good strides, and whatever is left, she actually went over with me with each resident. So, and I think you stated by the end of the year, they'll all be complete. If you would like just to add anything to this project.
Thank you. I think you said it well. The last time I reported that we had, I think, 7 or 8 signed easements, and I'm really pleased to report that we have 23 signed now.
Progress. Excellent.
Yes, really good. And everybody is very excited, and they've been, working very hard with me to get these all finalized. We are down to the final dozen, and those are all in various stages of finalization. So at this point, I feel confident that we will have them all by the end of the year. And I will let you know, if there's any help I need from the council through the town administrator, I'll reach out. But at this point, I think we're making good progress.
Well, we certainly thank those residents. Mr. Clerk, do we have 1 or 2 meetings in January of 2018?
Trick question.
2.
So I'll make a motion to continue to the second meeting in January.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is correspondence from Raymond S. DeLeo, President of Gooding Realty Corporation, 16 Gooding Avenue. This is their notice of intent to renew their lease on the Gooding Avenue property.
Make a motion to refer this to the town administrator and the town council chair to negotiate in the best interest and report back to the town council on their findings in probably most likely executive session.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is from Councilman Tiska regarding the dedication of so-called Wally Park in honor of former Councilman Hersoff. The Councilman Tiska provides additional information marked I-2.
Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm here before you to talk about recognizing Halsey Hersoff. He dedicated his life to public service and demonstrated an absolute love and passion for the town of Bristol. He has contributed the most to outdoor recreation and park development in Bristol. He has almost single-handedly designed and built all of Bristol's waterfront parks, as well as many other parks. He has never asked for any recognition for the amazing contributions he has made throughout his life. So it's for this reason that I think it's fitting we recognize him. And I believe that an appropriate place to recognize him is what many people refer to as Wally Park. I ask that we take action tonight to place a sign in the area shown on the supplement. This area, for those that don't have the supplement, is at the beginning or the termination of a crosswalk, depending on which way you're going. And this location is on a lot of land, a plot of land, that Halsey was instrumental in acquiring for the town of Bristol. It's sometimes known as the $1 park. It's because of the extreme low cost that he was able to acquire this park. This park, this area, was acquired through his hard work and currently has no designation to anyone else. And so I asked that we place a sign that denotes that area as Halsey Harrisoff Park. In addition to that, I hope we can take action tonight to approve use of the area to be known as Halsey Harrisoff Park for a recognition and celebration on October 14th, when all of Bristol can come down. All the people that have worked alongside him in public government, many of those that haven't, many of those that have been raised in Bristol, come down and celebrate his accomplishments and recognize him. So with that, I ask for my colleagues' consideration.
Is that a motion? They'll second it.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
And I'll second that. I mean, I think it's, and we talked about this last year, maybe to do something before he left. I mean, it's very appropriate, and as I've said to many people, the Bristol that we know today, as far as our parks and our waterfront, would not be what it is if it weren't for Halsey when he was particularly when he was in as administrator. So, and also the council, working closely with the councils at that time. And I think this is a really fitting location, and so I'm very excited about it.
I commend Councilman Tiska because upon hearing Councilman Herreshoff's departure, I recall reaching out to Walter right away, and we were thinking the same line of the Wood and Hope connection of the new flower garden, that me and Halsey were thinking of ideas what to put there at the time with the grant that we were using. So I thought it was fitting, and discussing with my colleagues, to actually name that spot, which is solely new, and he can be dedicated to that. But legalities, prevailed. We won't get into the intricates, but for the naming rights, we could not do it. So I do commend you for bringing this forward, but I guess my feelings is, I don't know if it's solely, I want to do something for Councilman Herreshoff, but many residents over the years, and this is a town about tradition, and whether we go to the town code or whatever, everyone knows it as Wally Beach. So when you use the word Wally, that's one of our forefathers. You will have everyone else, which is rightfully so, and I can agree to that he has dedicated to all the parks. But I would like to see something, and we're working on projects and talking with the administrator. There's going to be a new park and boardwalk right behind the Azevedo property. It's going to be new, and I think, personally, it should be something new that Councilman Herreshoff can take solely ownership of the name without any contradiction of, it used to be Wally Park, I always remember it as Wally Park, now it's Halsey Herreshoff Park, and sometimes that can happen within a small community that has traditions. So that's where my mixed reviews are. I'm not saying that it's not fitting, it's not, good for what we're trying to do. I just think maybe another location that is solely with Halsey's name on it and not replacing another name that is known to many of our residents through many generations would be considered.
Well, I think that, certainly people call things a lot of different things. Like they're going to call it Wally Beach, Wally Park, Herreshoff Park, whatever. It's all going to be kind of being the same thing, but I particularly like this location. Like, I had thought about the boardwalk down at Independence Park, because Independence Park was already called Independence Park, and then you could name the boardwalk after Halsey, but I like this location in particular just because it is so much a part of the history of his family, being near the boat area, his boat yard, and all of that. So, I mean, I just think that it's like very, very fitting that some of the family homestead, the Herreshoff family homestead is near there, and his business. I mean, it's not directly across from there, but it's very close.
I would just add before, if I may, with my colleagues before they might want to say things, is also the October 14th date. I would have to ask where the funds are going to come from for any placement of what is going to be installed there, how it's going to be done, and is there certain dimensions, legality-wise, with the abutting properties that might be in question also when we designate this whole park. So.
There's no doubt that Halsey is a remarkable man, and we definitely would like to honor him in some way. I just have a question for Lou. To maybe you could tell me what sort of process have previous councils done in the past for dedications, and is there any process in place? And I guess, and also, once Lou answers that, Andy, I just have a question. Were there any other locations looked at? Was Halsey involved? Were some of the public involved? Like, I'm just wondering, we looked at all options, so, but.
Mr. Clark?
To be honest, I can't recall of any dedication of anything to anybody.
Michael Andrews way.
Well, I mean, that was actually something that came out in the planning board, and it actually exists on private property, which is another complicated thing, the Michael Andrade Way. I mean, I know that in my experience when now we are going almost back to the 70s, when I was first on the school committee, that there was a policy that the school department, which it was a school department at the time, had that good, bad, or indifferent, that in order for something to be named in honor of someone, that person had to be deceased. And there were lots of reasons why that was done. Not the least of which is that perhaps there was no more opportunity to get into trouble. But I can't think of a single thing beside that, to be honest. I know that in the past, when there have been dedications to individuals or whatever, with having met that other criteria, there have been like blue ribbon committees that are put together and sort of come up with the wording for the plaque and all that other stuff, because that can be a little bit complicated. You want to make sure that the words are correct and that they get thought about before they go on there, and exactly what you call things. And it also gives the opportunity for perhaps those that are on this committee to go out and learn some things about what they might like to be commemorating.
Thank you.
Beyond that. So that's really my own experience.
Was this your intention, Andy, for what the plaque would say? Is this language underneath the picture?
No, it's just,
No,
Andy.
That was Andy.
Oh, sorry.
No, it is not. I would defer all words on the plaque to be considered by and approved by the town administrator. And regarding expenses associated with the signage and a celebration, there would be no public funds expended. These funds would be privately raised. Regarding other interested parties, we have Diane Davis here tonight, who maybe would have a chance to speak. But along Diane, there have been two other committee members established in formulating this idea. Halsey has been consulted with, as much as I thought it would be special to be a surprise. I would honestly concerned about his feelings if we did dedicate the boardwalk behind the Gladding property to Halsey. And To be honest, this lot, he's very proud of the efforts that he went through and his accomplishments in acquiring this lot that we'd like to place a sign at, denoting it as Harrisoff Park. This wasn't, and I understand the potential confusion between Wally Beach, but I'm not asking to rename Wally Beach. Wally Beach is an extension of Wally Street, and it's a public access, is one of many in town. This sign will be placed to the north of that on a lot that is not Wally Beach. This is a lot that we hope will be referred to as Halsey Harrisoff Park. In regards to the idea about a policy where we name things after people die, I think that's simply ridiculous. And I think it's the school department's policy is irrelevant here. So, I think this is a very special circumstance, and I'd like to point out that, when I started tonight, those weren't my words, and it's all in all due respect to, I think, someone who has accomplished incredible things in Bristol, and that's Walter Burke with Parks and Recreation. Those 4 items weren't my words; those were Walter's words about Halsey's commitment. Halsey being almost single-handedly building the parks, all waterfront parks in Bristol, and many others. Walter said that. Simply repeating Walter's words. So it's in no disregard to the efforts that Walters makes, but I think that it should be noted that those weren't my words. So I think it might be nice to hear from Diane Davis and maybe someone else that could speak on this matter.
Well, I just want to reiterate, I don't think you're just going to hear from Walter, because I stated myself that you're not going to get any debate, I don't think, on the commitment, what has Halsey accomplished and given back to this community. But I'm just questioning this parcel, and that's all. I'm not questioning, honoring, and dedicating something on behalf of Councilman Harrisoff. I'm fully in support of that.
Do you feel that this
and I'm also in support, Councilman, that the deceased policy, I think sometimes it's better to honor somebody when they're living, when they can appreciate it. But I'm not comfortable at this time, and I know you want an October 14th date, but I'm just not comfortable. I might need more time, because this, even though it is fitting, this type of policy and a naming right in a town as good as it is, I think it has to be perfect, because once it's instituted, it's really marked. So that's why I'm just putting a little caution, not that
yeah, I think this parcel's perfect. And I wonder what concerns you have about this parcel, and what would enable you to agree that this is the most fitting spot in Bristol to honor Halsey Harrisoff.
If I may respond, and I think I will. I agree. There's a couple things we have to be really careful of here. Number one is we don't want to denigrate anyone's name here, and then no one has. This is all for positive reasons. But I do agree with some that's been said that I do believe this is Wally Beach. And I know that I reached out to the clerk. If you hear me say that a few times, it's because he's Mr. History over there. So he'll reference back to things. And it was through Lou that the Wally Park, and in fact, I'm on Google Maps right now, and it shows it as Wally Park. But that doesn't mean Google Maps is right. But it shows as Wally Park and Wally Beach. And the town bought it in 1990 as part of the sale of Seven Oaks. It belonged to Seven Oaks, and then it was purchased in 1990 by the town. And its reference is $1, meaning $22,000. Each resident had paid approximately $1 for it. My problem, or my concern with naming this particular area, is that Wally Beach has been Wally Beach forever. And Wally is a founding father, and I don't know how we would denote where Wally Beach stops and Halsey, Herreshoff Park, or whatever it is, would start. I don't believe that this was part of it together, but it is contiguous at this point in time. And there's nothing that denotes where something starts and stops. But let me be very careful here. I don't want to negotiate the importance of the person that we're talking about. I just want to remember them and recognize them. So remember would suggest they're gone, and they're not. Halsey's still here. He's 84, just had a recent birthday, and he's still here. So I don't want to denigrate that in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe there's other options out there. I don't know what they are. And I don't want to sit here tonight and say this one is a more appropriate because I don't want to gauge levels of importance. Not for myself, because I feel like we'll kind of take away from the importance of this and the magic of this. So for myself, those are my concerns. I feel like it is Wally Beach. My parents called it Wally Beach. My grandparents called it Wally Beach. Everybody I know calls it Wally Beach. And changing it would change a founding father's name. And for myself, that's not what we do. But let me be really careful with that, too. I believe Councilman Tiska's goal here is absolutely great. I think it's very appropriate. I just don't think this is the way to do it. But I do believe his motivations are great. I think we all agree that. And I'd love to consider something else. So.
Well, I think there are all over the place. There are, like Wally Beach located in Herreshoff Park. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that everywhere you look. I'll tell you the concern that I have. So this has been almost a year. So I know that we all had a thought about doing something for Halsey. I think it was election night up at the Democratic headquarters that I talked about doing something maybe for the, as a surprise for, at his last meeting, not necessarily, saying we're going to do X and sort of give a certificate type of thing and then have the thing in the spring, because that was already in November. Ed's talked about doing something and that he had a thought. I mean, so there's a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different ways to go about it, but we could continue to think about these things forever, and it might never come to fruition. I mean, here's a plan in front of us, and one of the plans that, I very rarely agree with Andy, so this is like a historic moment. This is almost historic as like when I was early in the council with Halsey, so it's very reminiscent. But I do think that the location of this, you can still call it Wally Beach. I mean, I never call it Wally Beach. I call it Wally Park, So I don't really think, I think people are going to call it whatever they're used to calling it. I think it's the dedication of the name, and you can still have Wally Beach located within the Herreshoff Park.
Diane, did you want to share something? And first, welcome.
One of the things, too, that I want to say is...
Could you state your name for the record, Diane? I know who you are, but if we all know...
Diane Davis, 25 Butterworth Avenue, Bristol. Thank you. Manny Souza Park is behind the Maritime Center, and that was done, many years ago, but in your... I don't know if it was in your tenure or not, but I believe that was done under Halsey's time as well. And I know that park still exists, even though people don't refer to it too often, but I know how the family feels about it. Manny Souza was the captain of the Prudence Ferry for up to years, rode out many hurricanes and bad storms, and was quite the man. And he duly deserved that park. But that's one of the ones that he said he had forgotten that we didn't have. Right?
You're right.
Right. Okay. As far as Halsey having this park named after him, that is the appropriate place for it. I've been in Bristol 75 years. I know that I think of the Wally Beach area is what's across the street from Wally Street. We have Wally School. We are remembering him as one of our founding fathers. We're not pushing Wally aside. If we are, it's the condition of that building. But as far as I'm concerned, I know, because I was a town employee under Halsey and other administrators. Yes, he loved the outdoors. He still loves the outdoors. He loves the parks in this town. He worked hard at Paul Park. He worked hard. The girls' softball field down at the Town Beach Complex. That wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for Halsey. He worked on the Firemen's Memorial Park. But the most appropriate place to put the Halsey C. Herreshoff plaque is down there in the area of Herreshoff manufacturing and everything that's come since then. I feel strong about it. I mean, the man, we all know he's done a lot for this town, and his age never stopped him. I just hope I keep going that long. I have my moments. However, I think Andy finally, like Mary said, finally started pulling things together. Everybody wanted to do something, and now we've got something, and we're trying to do it. And yes, it won't cost the taxpayers a cent, because we know how to find the money. It will come, and everyone will be invited. But let's do it while Halsey's here to appreciate it, to know he's been appreciated.
Right. You know, one of the things, just real quickly, it just reminded me, what people call things, like when I was a kid, I always called Union Street Beach, Union Street Beach. Other people call it green grass. And so every time I hear green grass, I have to stop and think, is that Wally or is that Union Street? You know what I mean? So.
Right. And we still think of things like, where's Almax? Pretty soon it's going to be where Benny's was. You know, these things, these names stay there regardless. They don't go away.
So let's go further. Thank you for your comments. Let's go further what has been discussed about referring to the town administrator. What is going to be insigniated on the plaque? What type of plaque? Whether it's a committee that's going to be self-funding this and not taxpaying dollars, and where it's going to be placed, I think should have been part of this supplemental form too, for the council to see, because it's going to be there forever. So that's why I'm just being honest. I need more time with this, and that's for these reasons.
Any other discussion?
I just had a question on October 14th. What's the significance? Is that a hard date, or why?
It's enough time to get this done. You know, I think the idea is to do it. The idea is to recognize Halsey, and I think I'd rather not do it in the Venus de Milo, because we're going to need a big venue.
Yeah.
And it's no better place to do it than outside, under a tent, with, at that time, side curtains and heaters, so we can have, hopefully, not enough space for everyone in Bristol to show up. And if we need details, we'll get details, because I hope that we have quite a showing of attendance at an event to recognize Halsey. The supplemental does have a recommended area for signage. I think there is no rush in getting the sign up. There is no rush in determining the words on the sign. I think that should take time. That's exactly what we should be careful about. But I think it's, you know, I'm not asking to denote a certain area, of which Halsey Harrisoff Park is. I'm asking for the ability to put a sign where I've denoted on a parcel which he was instrumental in making accessible to the town of Bristol. I do obviously understand and respect the idea that it is referred to as Wally Park now. But I think we could take action tonight to agree to place a sign on a lot which currently has no dedication, work towards finding the right words to put on that sign. If that takes 6 months and we put the final sign up in the spring, great. Maybe we can do something temporary in the meantime. But I'd like to move forward.
Is there any other discussion from the council?
Just that, again, I am open to it. I got these details tonight, stamped on September 13th. So I would like one more to go to the next council meeting to make a final decision. And it's not that I don't want to honor Halsey or this isn't the location and all that. I just want to make sure I understand exactly what's going to happen, what the process is, what it's going to look like. I'd like to go out to the site, see where the sign is, and make sure we are doing this right and we're truly honoring Halsey in the right way.
You'll excuse me, but I don't think you need to apologize that you just got everything tonight and you need to make a decision. I think it's okay to have a little bit of time. As Councilman Stewart's already mentioned, we don't know what we're voting on yet.
Right.
So it's okay to take a little bit of time. I also believe that if it's the council's will to move forward, then we can move forward with this. Sure. But it's okay to take a little bit of time. Just got the information at 7 o'clock. It's a big deal, and it is forever. So and again, let me be really careful and clear with this. I don't want to denigrate anybody. We're not talking about their importance or lack of importance or input or respect or anything else. It's about a decision that we're making, and it's a big one. So is there any discussion from the council? No? Mr. Carroll?
Well, you took my thunder away. Thomas Carroll. Nathan, Chairman, I'd just like to make a point and emphasize a point you made with regard to, it's always been Wally Beach. And it was Wally Beach before the lot was purchased. The lot was privately owned. So Wally Beach is going to be Wally Beach is going to be Wally Beach. This lot was privately owned. It now is an opportunity to honor Halsey. I think I'm not going to repeat anything that's been said here tonight, but I don't think you're degrading anybody or taking a name away. You're taking a comfort level when people refer to it as Wally Park, but you're not renaming a parcel of land that's already named Wally Park. So I certainly think it's the right place, the right time, and a great opportunity to honor a man while he is alive. I don't mean to say that negatively, but I hope he lives to be 100, right? But it's a rare opportunity to honor someone while they're alive who's done so much, especially for the park system. The parks are an intricate fabric of this town, and he had the foresight to create that park system long before we became what we are today as a tourism community. So, and he fought hard for it and took a lot of criticism, too. This is the perfect spot, given all the reasons you folks stated. So,
Thank you.
And I agree that you need time, but I don't think the spot's an issue. Okay? Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah. So, remind me, we've had a little bit of dialogue here. The motion was to move forward with a dedication on, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong here, October 14th.
It was actually one motion, but I'd like to break it up into two. So
there's a motion, so you'd have to take your motion off the floor and make a new motion if that's what you'd like to do.
No, we can leave the motion as one, and then maybe I can make a motion if it
Certainly
is
you can make
necessary
Sure.
afterwards. But
Absolutely.
the motion as it stands now is to approve the placement of a sign as designated in the supplement, acknowledging the lot in the area of which it's placed as Halsey Harrisoff Park. Addition in that motion, I ask for the council's approval to utilize that area for celebration and recognition on October 14th.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to ask that again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? For all the stated reasons on positives. So what's the new motion? Is there a new motion?
The motion is, I still, irrespective of the town's willingness, this council's willingness at this point to recognize that as Halsey Harrisoff Park, I'd like the permission from the council to still have a celebration to acknowledge the accomplishments of Halsey Harrisoff at that site on October 14th.
Is there a second?
Celebration.
Well, I just have that gives me a little bit more pause for concern, because what is the celebration of? Like, I think if it's okay to not have, I think when you have a celebration, it would become more like what you had mentioned earlier, like it's more appropriate outside than it would be at the Venus. So but it becomes more like a testimonial to Halsey than it does to dedicating something that is most fitting, which would be one of the parks. So I think that is, I mean, I could go along with that, but I just feel like if this is, if we, I mean, when is our next meeting, Lou? 3 weeks.
Mary, if I may. Absolutely.
I just wanted to just, I mean, is it possible that if we have, October 4th. I mean, I was just thinking if we had like just a special meeting to discuss this, and then move that October 14th maybe down, like up, back 1 week. I mean, you want to get it while you get the nice fall weather. But because to me it seems like some of the question is this the right location? Then what are the other options? Now you're going to go out and you're going to explore every possible option out there, of every single park that we have. Then we're going to talk about what the wording would be, and I think that is best. Like wordsmithing is best given to one or two people to look at as the draft. I think like the final sentence here is really pretty good, and I think you just go on to a little bit about his public service. We're not in detail of everything that he did, but just his dedication to the community.
So I think that there is possibility of success if the questions that were raised this evening are addressed. I heard things like what's going to be on the sign, where is the sign, what would it look like. I think all of that would be, I think it would probably be very appropriate to continue this to our next meeting, address the concerns that have been expressed, and I think if you can address those, there's a possibility that this might move forward. But I think it's not unfair to ask that this was given, clarity was given this evening, but we've had zero time to look at it. We're talking about it right now.
Just got it tonight.
It's, and it is that important, then a little bit of time is okay. So, and then instead of us saying, what's it going to look like and all of that, we just need those answers to make an informed decision. So, may I suggest that we continue this to the next meeting, address the concerns that have been expressed, and the outcome might be a lot better.
Second.
So that was a motion and a second, Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, I think it might be helpful if I weighed in after hearing the good words spoken. A couple of key things that raised my attention. One was Councilwoman Perella. She served during that time frame when the parks were purchased. So I heeded a lot of credence from what she said. Also, Mrs. Davis, who worked at that time for Mr. Herzog. So that was very interesting to hear that testimony, and I hadn't heard it prior. But if Mr. Herzog wants that piece of property, if someone knows that would be most fitting for him, and that was not previously Wally Park, which there was some confusion prior to this meeting, whether it was or wasn't, but it's clear to me that prior to 22 years ago, that wasn't Wally Beach or Wally Park, it was private property. So that's another factor that would lead me to think that the council could honor that piece of property as Halsey Herzog Park and allow the administration to work out the details, present it to you October 4th, and we could still keep a timeline of October 14th. I did speak to Director Burke today also about some of the different parks that were built. I think his sentiments are very much the same. But the testimony, it almost had to be heard tonight, and I think it was great. Some different perspectives and information that came forward from the 5 different perspectives was good, and that's, as the town administrator, that's my position. I would certainly love to move forward, present something on October 4th for that piece of property north of Wally Beach in honor of Mr. Herzog.
That's exactly, agreed, because that's exactly what the motion is in second.
And that's why I stated concerns, but I never took away supporting, the intent of this. It is an important thing, and I just want to make sure we cover everything. And, if it's a big ruckus because we have to wait to another meeting when we're going to be renaming something and it should be special, I don't understand what the problem is. Maybe it's just me, but I think it should be unified, and I think once we assess it more and some clarity is between all of us with all our perspectives, I think it will come to a great outcome. So,
to quote a prior councilman, it should be ship-shape and in Bristol fashion. So we have a motion and a second to continue this to the 4th, that's October 4th, to address the concerns that have been expressed, and add to that with the administrator's willingness to bring some suggestions to the table. So there's a motion and a second to continue to October 4th, excuse me. All in favor?
Wait, I just have a question or a comment here. I don't have a problem waiting till October 4th, but if I understand the administrator correctly, maybe I'm wrong. I think what he was asking is that we agreed tonight to move forward naming this piece of, this park as Herzog Park, and on October 4th come back with the details of what the sign would look like and the wording. Am I correct about that? So that we still have the celebration and the naming of the park on the 14th. That's what I believe Steve had said. And so if that's the case, that's different from what this motion is. The motion is come back on the 4th and decide if we're even going to do it.
So
that's not possible to do it on the 14th.
So I do agree, though, but my motion was to continue this and address all the issues before we take the next step.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And my intention was the property north of the beach. So it's not the beach, it's the park area.
Right. So the motion is so we can have all of the, we'll call it concerns addressed. and then take a motion or take action at that point wherever that action may lead. So there's a motion and a second to continue to the 4th to have these concerns addressed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Mr. Tiska? Is it 3-2 or?
4-1.
Okay, the next item is correspondence from the treasurer regarding flashing lights on State Street.
So I asked the treasurer, I wanted this on the agenda. If you all, my colleagues recall, the Mount Carmel School was in front of us right at the end of the school year and had requested some flashing lights, singular, plural. There was a lot of dialogue about it. Right after that meeting, if you've driven past that intersection since that point, you'll notice that, and I thank you, Chief, for getting right on that and getting those up. You'll notice 20-mile-an-hour school zone signs very clearly marked. But I know that this council seemed very willing to, so that's why I wanted it here. I worked with the treasurer to find this money so we can take the next step to put up actually one flashing light. After working with the chief and the administrator, it was most appropriate that only one was needed. Why it's up to $10,000, and believe it or not, $10,000 for a flashing light sounds crazy, and honestly it is. But it depends on where it goes and how it's mounted. If it can be mounted on, for example, something that's existing there, it's less expensive, but depending on how the drop from National Grid, so it can get electricity and all of those things, and where it has to be in relation to the school, may be a little bit more expensive. But regardless, these funds would cover that, so this would pay for that light. And it was brought to my attention, I was concerned a little in the beginning of this, to be honest, because it's not a public school, but I believe the chief and the administrator said the same thing to me, which changed my mind immediately. He said, aren't these Bristol kids? Aren't these Bristol people? And I changed, and any misgivings I had immediately disappeared. So this is here so we can approve this if my colleagues are willing to do that.
You're going to have one light that's going to go down, going to west, on State Street going west?
That's correct.
Chief, I just had a question in regards to the study. Is that available, or I didn't?
The study with regards to the data we had received?
Yeah, just how you decided, because I know they wanted, what, two or three?
Right. And I think, as the chairman said, we compromised. The data showed that there were more vehicles traveling west, where they might have been close to the speed limit because there wasn't a real issue with speed there. But there is a serious concern with, obviously, the youths crossing the street onto the common and all the other pedestrian traffic that's there during that school time. You know, parents dropping off kids, picking up children, all that. So I think at this time, after looking at it from all angles, doing our due diligence, collecting all the data, I think it warrants a signal facing west as you come either from Wood Street or traveling through State across Wood. I think that's a good starting point. We can always revisit it later, but I think that would put us where we need to be. Speaking to the concerned parties from the school, I think they were acceptable to what we were doing at this point. All the wheels have been in motion at the request of the town administrator through the council chairman. So when we get the green light, I assure you we're going to have some yellow flashing lights within a short period of time. My goal is to get them there. I give you no false hope or promises, but within 30 days, any luck, we'll have flashing lights there for the school.
So your recommendation is one, just one?
Just one.
Tim, I did not share this. I should have. I did reach out to one of the representing parents, and they were absolutely thrilled.
Well, either way, 1, 2, 3, it needs to be funded, and I want to give the green light for any type of funding for this project.
Green light.
So I make a motion we approve to the funding recommended by the treasurer to support this, and as the chief stated, if there's something need be where we can revisit, like we revisit anything. But I notice other things were already done in those zones, so we're on our way, and I think this will be good. So,
is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also from the treasurer, she provides a memorandum regarding the use of the Colt Fund, and you do have a additional request from the Bristol Warren Regional School District for a additional appropriation from the Colt Fund for the completion of the walkway and stair project.
So I'd like to give an update on this one, too. The school department had come in front of us about 2 meetings ago and asked for an appropriation of $150,000 from the Colt Fund. To remind the public, the Colt Fund was monies left by the Colt family for upkeep and maintenance for the building. And these, if you've driven by there, and probably everybody has, saw the front stairs off and the work that they're doing over there. They had asked us for $150 because they believed that was enough money to do the work necessary. When they pulled off the front stairs, they noticed that the bricks underneath were almost gone. In fact, it was kind of hanging on by a thread. So the school had come and actually requested an additional $66,000 to do the additional repairs. But I've been in contact with Dr. Andrea, the superintendent, and in fact, the opposite is now true. They had applied at the same time for state funds to pay for this, so they don't need the $66,000 that's on this. They actually don't even need the $150 that they initially asked for. So good news. The ultimate expenditure should be less than $70,000. So we had approved $150. It should be down to $70. Why there's a question is that it depends on what the reimbursement is from the state. As you might know, it can vary from 63 to 67 cents, if my memory's correct, per thousand. So long story short, they don't need the money. The additional funds that's being requested right here, and what they asked for, they're not going to need that either. So good news all around. And we're happy to hear that they were successful to get that money, and that is such a centerpiece for the town. It'll be nice when it's put back together again.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's to the hard work of the Asset Protection Plan with the Building Committee for the Bristol Regional Warren District. With the priorities, I can honestly tell you, sitting on that committee for Bristol and Warren, the Governor Raimondo was down today to sign into executive order for the proposal of the building infrastructure policy for all the schools and the refurbishments of the safety needs to update all our schools throughout the state. And I thought it was fitting coming to Bristol Warren. It was held in Warren, but we have shovel-ready projects. We have priority outlines going forward. Dealing with the administrator, all the needs that already have been addressed and going to be addressed in our schools, we have been doing. So I just wanted to share that with the public.
So it would seem appropriate at this point to have a receive and file motion on this.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I just say again, nice job, school, Bristol Warren Regional School District, for finding that money elsewhere, and that Colt Fund continues to be there for generations. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item J1. This is a tabulation of bid number 863. This is for the Town Beach Sanitary Sewer Service. You have 6 proposals provided. The first is from JML Excavation of Bristol in the amount of $56,357. The second from MJ Construction and Landscape Incorporated, also of Bristol, in the amount of $33,000. The third is from William Anthony Excavating Incorporated of North Kingstown, and that amount is $99,000 even. The next is from Skirka Construction of West Warwick, and that amount is $99,397. The fifth is from East Coast Landscaping and Construction of Portsmouth, and their bid amount is $19,935. And the final is from JAM Construction Incorporated of Middletown with the amount of $92,195.
So every project is important, but especially this one, what needs to be done at our town beach because of everything that we have done in the past, we have to do it right. I just look at these amounts that were presented, there's some disparities and gaps from, so when I refer this to you, Mr. Administrator, I just want to make sure that the dollars, even if it's on the high side, need be what is in the specs and what's needed to be done at the town beach, so we don't run into this again, is going to be needed, so I refer it to you to act in the best interest of the town.
Is there a
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Item J2, this is bid number 864. This is for the landscape and design of Legion Square. There are two bids received. The first is from DuPont's Landscaping Services of Bristol in the amount of $12,760, and the second from Yardworks Incorporated of Warwick in the amount of $35,100.
I'm going to go outside of everything as a council right now, because I know what we usually do. I make a motion, we award the bid to DuPont's Landscaping Services for this project at $12,760.
Well, there's a left ball. Okay. So is there a second?
Well, I don't have an issue doing it, except that we need to make sure that they have included everything in their, in their bids, in their bid documents that were in the RFP, correct?
Yeah,
I
I
think
was-
it needs to go back to the department.
I was curious
Double
why
check
the
that.
big disparity between the
Mr.
two.
So I'm not allowed to do a left ball.
I'm going to second that motion.
There's a motion, and you could certainly amend your motion to make sure that it includes, that it is inside the spec of the RFP. So,
I'll amend my motion. It was no disrespect, Mr. Administrator. I know we refer everything to you, but I just wanted to, there were two bids. We are familiar with this grant that's involved and with this Loafers Legion Corner, and we know the relationship we have with DuPont in the town of Bristol. So I was just trying to, put into retrospect.
If you don't mind, just a little question on my part, because we do have a process in place. Like, personally, I would be uncomfortable sending an award letter. We did inform the bidders who were present this morning that typically, and we don't guarantee, typically things are referred to the administrator, and the administrator's office is the place that handles the questions should they come in, like from the unsuccessful bidder, for example. Not familiar with the specs, I'm really not even I wouldn't be comfortable speaking on your behalf when it comes to that. So if you can add a component in there that would involve the administrator, I'd feel a lot more comfortable.
I'm going to withdraw my motion, and I'm just going to refer it to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town. I had thought there
sounds like we have a preference, though, Mr.
We're talking about a lot of past history, and I thought in the past there has been awards
Thank you,
for certain
Councilman. I
bids.
feel much more comfortable seconding that motion.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
And that's the entertainment for the night.
Actually, I'm going to add something to, nothing about how this process goes, but I think it's important that moving forward, we give a little bit more information to the public on what exactly we just did. These bids, the first one was for issues at the town beach with sewer, and this is to improve the issue that is there with sewer. This most recent one that was just spoken about Loafers Corner, there was a grant that was awarded by the hard work of Diane Williamson's department, if I'm correct, or was that you, Walter? Okay, then I take that back, and it was the hard work of Walter Burke's department to clean up that, remove those pavers there, put pervious pavers so water will drain through, to remove the area around the tree, and then put in a tree, what is it called, a tree skirt. So, and then also put in checkerboard tables over there. So I think it's important that moving forward we be a little bit clearer on that. So I
And
think
brighter
that's-
striping, Mr.
And brighter
Chairman.
striping, yes. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
If I may, Mr.
Absolutely.
Chairman, Councilman Stewart, I'm glad that you were inspired by my desire to decisively act quickly and move on things. I was prepared to second that motion, but again, I'm glad you were inspired.
And me without my sarcasm meter. Mr. Clerk.
Okay, and finally, we have bid 865. This is for the Ferry Road sewer improvements. You have 4 bids received. The first is from William Anthony Excavating of North Kingstown in the amount of $1,319,350. And I will point out, these are the base bids. The second from John Rocchio Corporation of Smithfield, the bid amount of $2,128,645. The third from East Coast Landscaping and Construction of Portsmouth in the amount of $1,302,446. And the last is number 4, that is CB Utility Company of Bristol in the amount of $1,275,881.
So in the efforts, as I just expressed, of being clearer on what these represent, this is for improvements to, I'm going to step back and say much-needed improvements to the sewer line that goes through Ferry Road. This is, and correct me, Mr. Administrator, if I'm wrong on this one, but this is in collaboration with Roger Williams University to share the costs on this. The improvements will be both to the university and as much to the town. Both are most needed. The way that this system is over there, it needs these improvements, and this will get going on it right away. So, did we have a motion to refer this?
I was waiting for Councilman Tiska to make the motion.
15, love your serve, sir.
Make a motion to refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the periodic report that's provided to the council from the Barrington Director of the Bristol County Water Authority, Alan Klepper. This item K1.
Motion to receive and file.
Second, with just a brief discussion, and as an advertisement for our residents, especially in the north end of Bristol, it was appropriated and approved by the board for close to $1.8 million to construct a new Metacom pump station. And what this will do is it will resolve the high-pressure zone problem due to the elevation in that area of the town. There's a lot of low water pressures. A lot of people have pumps and whatnot. So this will actually, after many years, be great for our town residents in that area. It was much needed, so we're just glad that they're addressing it.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is a request for executive session that we will take up at the conclusion of the public agenda. The next items we have are the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
So in an effort to be brief, I have 2 things. First one, Bristol lost someone yesterday that had been a member of multiple boards, and including an employee of the town and the uncle of Councilman Stewart that's sitting right next to me. Dennis, how do you say Dennis's last name correctly? LeBau. Dennis was DPW, and he was head foreman for 31 years. He's a lifetime member of the Bristol Fire Department. He served on the Bristol Harbor Patrol. He served as a Bristol Police Reserve officer. He was the husband to Denise Ashola, who was the deputy clerk for a long time, and also assistant to the administrator. Our hearts go out to Denise and family, and to you, Councilman.
Thank you.
We appreciate. There's so many people that we've had some recent awards for people that have given 30-plus years of service. We were just speaking of Halsey recently, who had given 30-plus years of service. So our hearts go out to you. On a lesser point, because that's most important, I was on Siegel Street this morning speaking with a resident about the work that is being done over there. The director of DPW, Kevin McBride, had called me recently and said there was an ordinance that had passed by this council about 2 years ago. It's probably a little bit longer than that. And Kevin was going to have his guys paint the street, put the markers on, and follow the ordinance. But when he looked at the ordinance and looked at the street, it didn't seem to coincide. Our ordinance was passed to show some no parking on one side and a little bit of no parking on the other side. this needs to come back in front of us, and it needs recommendations, and I want to have it on our next agenda, certainly from the police department, the administrator, the fire department, and obviously DPW, for some recommendations. The ordinance that we passed may have been better suited if the no parking was on the other side of the street. So we look for your recommendations. We want to have this on our next agenda. That would be a first reading, so we don't have to get into too much discussion, but certainly we need your recommendations so we can take a good next step on that. There was also a couple of handicap parking spaces that are no longer necessary on that street, so we can take a look at that too. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney.
First, I just want to say my heart goes out to everybody in Florida and Texas and Mexico. These hurricanes and earthquakes have been tremendous, and a lot of people have been affected. So I know our thoughts and prayers from in Bristol here with everybody down there. I think we all grew up with Benny's, and I was very surprised to see that it's closing completely. We all grew up going there. It's kind of a nostalgic feeling. I remember going in there with my dad, looking for bikes, and always had good memories there. So it's going to be sad that it's closing, and I think brings up a broader issue. We need to look at the economic development and where we're going in the town as far as the online economy, because I think a lot of brick and mortar stores are going to be affected by the online growth there. So we need to take a good, close look at that. And finally, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of my colleagues get this a lot, as when are the shredding events? Right? Paper shredding events, I know, and you've talked about them a lot. That's coming up. The event is going to be sponsored in part by the Rhode Island Resource Recovery, and it's in partnership with the town of Bristol, Department of Public Works, and it will occur on Saturday, October 14th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. At the Department of Public Works location at 111 Mount Hope Ave. Individuals can bring up to 6 bags of paper to shred. No household chemicals, no commercial businesses. So I know that's a popular event. So anyway, that's it. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, I forgot to share something. Our Rogers Free Library was able to get some free computers. If you've gone to the library recently, they were able to get them from Newport Library. If you don't know this, libraries work very closely, but we have some particularly close working libraries. So we were able to take advantage of Newport upgrading their computer systems, and we got some computers that are in wonderful functioning condition that are available to the public. Thank you.
Mr. Tiska.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So on Saturday afternoon, I was doing what I was told, helping my wife get ready for the East Bay Food Pantry fundraiser, and it was a great success. But I think what was very encouraging was working with our harbor master, Greg Marsilli, and his staff down there in accessing the facility and getting ready for the event. I think that we talked about it at the last council meeting, using that event for fundraisers and so on, but it really is suited well, and it's a great spot to have an event. While I was down there, I also noticed parking and access to parking lots downtown. And a few meetings ago, we talked about putting our eyes on the parking study that was done maybe 4 years ago. I'd like to maybe request again that we look at that. Maybe that can be distributed to the council. I'd also like to have us think about for the next meeting what actions we take. And I think that there are a couple. One is to use that last study as a framework, update it, and see where we are in comparison after 4 years, 4 years of economic growth. But I also think it's important that we look at opportunities going forward, one being the marina expansion, 2 being Robin Rugg, 3 being continued growth of the economy in Portsmouth, mainly Prudence Island, additional traffic, visitorship overnight. Tonight, 6 out of 7 petitions were based on decreasing parking, some for good reason, all for good reasons, I should say, some for handicap, some other access. We talked about expanding the residential overnight parking zone again. So I think we have to be prepared for a perfect storm as we continue to take action, reducing parking for visitors and people staying overnight, increased demands going forward, and figure out whether it's a workshop, a task force potentially, and allocate funds to study it and look at options. Are there properties available to build a parking garage? Are there properties available for long-term lease at a discounted rate versus short-term higher rates? Would that even address the problem? You know, if the problem is the problem that big that even renting a parking lot wouldn't have an impact on it? We should know these things and understand them. So I would suggest that we place an item on next meeting's agenda to talk about the development of a task force to address the parking issues. And finally, since you didn't come, finally, Cogshell Farm Harvest Fair this weekend. This organization has been here for over 40 years. Many people grew up there, seeing lambs born, cows milked. It's an opportunity to reconnect with the farm, go on a hayride. I might be driving it, so hold on tight. And enjoy the farm. It's a beautiful spot in Bristol, and it's part of our fabric. So please come by and support it. It's the largest fundraiser that we have, and it's a small budget that runs the farm. It all goes towards staff which really bring people to Bristol and add to our community. So please support the farm this weekend. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Perella.
Okay, a couple of things. First, I just wanted to notice that in our consent agenda was that the Blythewald, the U.S. Department of Interior, is studying the potential for designation of Blythewald as a National Historic Landmark. So I think that's very exciting, and hopefully that will come to fruition. So I was very happy to see that in there. The other is about the hurricane situation, and this is a question really for our police chief and our administrator. And it involves the animals. And I know that in the past we've talked about our animal shelter not taking in animals from other states. And I don't remember offhand if it's a policy, if it's in the ordinance, or whatever is the case. But I know that when the hurricane happened in Texas, and I'm sure it's even a bigger issue now. They're looking to evacuate some of the animals to other shelters. And if you looked in the paper, you could see very clearly that many of these animals are very domesticated. They've got collars and tags on, and that they're most likely going to be reunited with their owners, hopefully. And if for some reason now the owners don't have a home and they're ending up in an apartment where they can't take an animal, you would want your pet to be in a good home. And I was just wondering if in emergency situations like that, which and if we had the space, would it be possible for us to be one of the places that could take and house some of those animals? I think Potter's doing it, I think.
That's correct, and we did receive some correspondence with regards to that. The administrator and I, after having a brief discussion, we spoke to Diane Gibbery, who's the animal control officer. I've asked her to explore all options for our animal shelter, but I would like other parts and other animal shelters throughout the state to also step up to make sure we're all on the same playing field. There is a process in place. I do believe we probably will be taking in small amounts of animals, but that is after they've been vetted through a state vet to make sure that there's no issues with these animals coming into our shelter. But we're willing and ready to do it. But I'd like other communities through the state to be doing the same. As you know, we have a wonderful shelter here, a lot of animal lovers, to include myself, but there are other animal shelters that are our size, if not bigger, and we just want to make sure we're doing what everyone else is doing. So the wheels are in motion, and I believe that'll probably happen within the next couple of weeks. I will be forwarding a correspondence to the administrator. He's been aware of it. He's forwarded the information that he's recommended to me, and we're working very closely to make that happen. So I will tell you that it probably will happen within the next several weeks.
That's good. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that's important. Is like a piece in a crisis situation. And with, the conversations we've had in the past about just bringing animals up, I'm not promoting that. I'm just
Right.
saying in this particular situation.
Under these circumstances, obviously, it warrants us.
And we all want to do our best to
Right.
help out.
We just want to protect what we have here at the same time.
course.
And as I said, I want to make sure that, Warwick, Cranston, Pawtucket, all these other animal shelters that are just as capable as ours, if not more, because of staffing and everything else, are willing to do it with us. Yeah.
Thank you, that's good, that's good news. And then finally, I just wanted to express my condolence, Ed, and to your Aunt Denise, and to Denny's family on his passing. It's just, as I said to Ed earlier, and when I heard about this just the other day, that he was so sick, I said I just sat next to him at Bob Holt's, literally right next to him at Bob Holt's retirement party a few months ago, so how fast things changed. I'm very sorry to hear about his passing.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Stewart.
Earlier on, we were talking timelines and updates such as the Tanyard Brook, and comments from my colleagues such as economic development, the closing of businesses, which Vice Chairman Sweeney touched upon, is very crucial when we do our assessment. Behind the scenes, not so much every time you see us here, there are conversations ongoing with every topic, to road improvements, to Medicum Avenue, to the ongoing solar farm up at the landfill, parks, all the assessments behind the scenes with each one of us and our administrator and department heads have continuous conversations, and such as that is the DOT with their timeline. They're very busy throughout the state, but their timeline has to be crucial for our little bumps in roads such as Medicom, because I say it time and time again to all our residents, but also visitors that come to Bristol, is such as we address if it's going to be parking for our visitors or new businesses trying to relocate here. Infrastructure is an important component of when you have a municipality that is trying to do all this. So I think the correspondence, you will begin a correspondence for a meeting with the DOT, Mr. Administrator and Diane, and all the department heads to make sure that the timeline and when it gets implemented, because I'm also trying to push, Diane's going to look at me, but I already asked the question, even though it wasn't part of the plan, is if we're going to have the pilot program from Chestnut to Bayview. I mean, I'm not happy with when I saw the new sidewalk in front of the Veterans Home, because I just can't make sense of why they didn't go to Anawamsket, but maybe that's just me when I drive by. But when it comes to cost, putting in curbing, when we do a pilot program or such as that, they need to know, so we need to be communicative with those entities going along so that we can get that going as soon as possible also. With that, thank Mike Davis, Sergeant Arms, Archie Martins, everyone who came out tonight, and everyone viewing at home. Thank you.
Town Administrator agenda items.
Thank you. First, my condolences to Denise Ashola and the LeBeau family, Councilman Stewart also. Denny LeBeau was a longtime foreman at DPW, also was very active with the fire department. He's well liked, and he'll be sorely missed. Road paving is ongoing. Director McBride is overseeing that. They're in the Jameson Drive area now. After that, they'll be heading over to the Fatima Drive area. We're delivering on our goal to maintain our public buildings. As you may see, we have painting, masonry, some carpentry going on. There was a crane here Monday morning, dropped off a new rooftop unit. It's halfway there.
Good somebody came in here tonight.
For those of you watching at home, it's kind of warm in here right now. So it's just not done yet.
Our rooftop units on most of our buildings are about 20 years old, so we're replacing them with efficient units. And here, the police station had 2 dropped Monday. I think those are up and they're working well. And the Quinta Gamlin Community Center, that was dropped off today. I think by next week or 2, they should be up and in full service. I'd like to commend the Bristol Police Department for the work that they did with the recent narcotics sweep. And, there are times that we may think that the local law enforcement doesn't know what's going on, but it takes a while to put a case like that together. And I think it's important that we stress the message that if anyone is looking to profit from the sale of drugs, especially deadly drugs such as fentanyl and heroin, Bristol isn't the place. Eventually, you're going to get caught, and we're serious about it. On a good note, the beach sand has arrived for our town beach. That's been about 20 years. That was budgeted for. Thank you to the council for that. There'll be some happy kids this summer. So I think tomorrow they'll be finishing with the grading. They want to make sure it's level so it lasts another 20 years. It was nice to be there Saturday. Soccer was, Bristol Youth Soccer was very busy. Our Parks Director stated he'll have somebody on staff there this coming Saturday to help with the parking. Don Luis Philippe, 125 years, Benevolent Society. They have their banquet and anniversary party this weekend. From what I'm hearing, the oldest in the nation, Portuguese Beneficial Association. 125, correct? Yes. Yeah. As far as our local economy, it was very disturbing to see that Benny's was closing. Some of us just couldn't understand it. I tried to explain it to my 4-year-old, and he couldn't figure it out. But if things are really bad, I'll tell you that they're bad with our local economy. But, you know, I've been stopping in and seeing our major manufacturers, Trimac, Jade, Symmetrics. They're doing well. They're actually looking for employees. Trimac was recently in the newspaper. They're expanding. They're bringing in a line from England. They bought the George Patton building. Yes. So there are jobs for people who want to work. Other than that, I think we're doing well. We're in the right direction. Our departments are working really well. I think our town is remarkable, and we're in the right direction. So with that, thank you and good night.
There's no one here for public comment. Right on top.
Mr. Chairman, request the council to convene into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42465A2, to discuss litigation, specifically 2 lawsuits, Conservation Law Foundation Incorporated versus Clear River Energy LLC et al., case number PC 2017-1037, and Town of Barville versus Clear River Energy LLC et al., case number PC 2017-1039.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Do you want these, Nathan, or just, you want me to give them to